What's going on there, Reject Nation? Greg here today. I want to talk about the Flash movie, specifically regarding the Ben Affleck Batman character and what his fate might ultimately be. Before we go into this, if you guys go ahead and hit that like button, I'd very much appreciate it. I want to say right up front that no, this is not some video where I'm here to complain about Warner Brothers and what they're doing to the Snyderverse or anything like that. In fact, I'd say that I'm here to try to present a more hopeful, optimistic outcome for what might happen in this movie. So with the rumors circulating around the Flash that the Snyderverse will be erased, and with words that Ben Affleck himself recently had to say about playing Batman in the Flash, it's led many to speculate that Ben Affleck might actually die in this movie. Now, like many of you, I'm a firm believer in restore to the Snyderverse. Now, I know a common thing for Snyderverse fans to react to upon hearing something like Ben Affleck might die in the Flash is, oh, no, what are you doing? Which is a feeling I completely respect, and initially how I kind of responded. However, after diving back into the comics a bit more, hearing what Ben Affleck had to say about the role, I do have theories as to how, if he does die, how that could actually be a very powerful and profound moment in the film that could actually honor what he did under Zack Snyder's direction, allowing to leave a lasting impact, meaning the Snyderverse isn't entirely erased. So let's just start off with some quotes about what Ben Affleck said and how, if he ultimately did die, how I think he would pass on. Recently he said, "I've never said this is hot off the presses, but my favorite scenes in terms of Batman and the interpretation of Batman that I have done were in the Flash movie. I hope they maintain the integrity of what we did because I thought it was great and really interesting. Different, but not in a way that is incongruent with the character. Who knows? Maybe they will decide that it doesn't work. But when I went and did it, it was really fun and really, really satisfying and encouraging. And I thought, wow, I think I finally have figured it out." He went on to say that it put a really nice finish on his experience with that character. I mean, that sounds like a man who's probably going to die in this movie, like the ultimate hero sacrifice. And I've said this before, that it seems like Ben Affleck is really done with franchises and is ready to say goodbye to blockbusters of this level. So that way he could focus more on things that he truly feels passionate about and it truly makes him happy, which I completely respect. But before diving into how I think he might die or if he does die, I do want to address something that I've heard be a concern online. It was reported that he only spent about a week filming for the Flash movie, which does sound like an obnoxiously short amount of time. But very recent, we learned that the other two Spider-Men in Spider-Man No Way Home, spoiler alert, they only shot for 2 weeks and they had very impactful, substantial screen time in that epic film. So if Ben Affleck has even half the amount of time that two other Spider-Men had, it stands to reason his performance could leave an impact. Now, one common speculation that I've heard going around is that Ben Affleck will die early on in this movie, and that's why Flash ultimately enters the Speed Force to try to rewrite time, but he ultimately hops into another dimension to try and fix things, and he winds up with Michael Keaton's Batman. Ultimately, through Barry's meddling, he makes things worse before things get better by the end. Hopefully. And now I personally don't subscribe to this theory that if he does die, that he's going to die like at the beginning of this for it to be the catalyst for the Flash movie plot. If anything, I think this movie will be bookended by Ben Affleck's Batman. Now here's what I think might happen. Real quick, in case you guys forgot, part of Barry Allen's backstory, his father went to prison because he was wrongfully accused of murdering his mother when he was just a little wee boy. And one thing that Barry Allen desires to do is go back in time and prevent the death of his mother. So when starting off this movie, when setting up at what point in time Barry is at in his life, I believe he'll have maintained a relationship with Ben Affleck's Batman, and through conversing with Batman, that's where he'll get the idea to time travel from either one of two things. A, they actually maintain Zack Snyder's Justice League, where, you know, he's reflecting on, I did actually time travel a little bit, and I did a pretty good job doing that. Or B, which sounds like a more likely scenario to me, Ben Affleck will tell him about the dream sequence that he had in BVS, wherein he will tell him that what helped save the world, what helped unite the League, was Barry Allen time traveling back and saying Lois is the key. I think a light bulb will go off in Barry Allen's head to go back in time to try to save his mom from being killed, but instead of time traveling back in time, like in the Flashpoint comic, he'll actually time travel to another universe. The Earth 89 universe, I believe is what it's called, as established from Crisis on Infinite Earths, which Ezra Miller did appear in. Now, if there's anything we can learn from unguarded multiverse traveling in any work of fiction, is it creates a cacophony of problems, ruptures in time or the universe, often resulting in the possibility of a particular universe ending. So I think by the end of this movie that in order for Barry Allen to save the day, both universes will be in jeopardy. continuity, and he'll need to somehow combine the universes, preserving some of the ongoing Snyderverse, hence why we're getting like an Aquaman 2, a Wonder Woman 3, Commissioner Gordon will still be alive in Batgirl, but having to erase or replace some. I believe the final decision to save the universe comes from a decision influenced by Ben Affleck's Batman. That instead of saving the Batman in the timeline Barry knows, he'll ultimately save the one from the Keaton universe. So the question is why? The answer comes down to one man. Robin. See, in the Flashpoint comic, which this movie is obviously very much inspired from, Barry Allen time travels back in time to prevent the death of his mother. But upon doing so, creates an alternate timeline where Bruce Wayne is actually the one who dies in the alley, and Thomas Wayne ends up becoming the Batman. And I think the role that Ben Affleck will ultimately play in this movie will be more reflective of the role that Thomas Wayne served in the comic. I mean, hell, even if you look in like BVS, Bruce is already a lot more like Thomas Wayne. He's a man with a near-death wish. He's willing to kill, and he's scorned by the loss of his son who died at the hands of a criminal. And then Zack Snyder confirmed that the suit that we saw in Batman v Superman, the one that a lot of us thought was Jason Todd's suit, was actually Dick Grayson's suit. Meaning, in the Snyderverse, in Ben Affleck's timeline, Robin aka Dick Grayson is dead. So I think what this movie will show us, maybe through like alluding to or a direct conversation at the beginning of this film, is that the relationship that Ben Affleck has formed with Barry Allen is helping to fill a void after the loss of Dick Grayson. So Robin no longer exists in the Timelines universe. However, set photos of Batgirl, a movie in which Michael Keaton is set to return, confirms that Robin does indeed exist and is alive within the Keaton universe. So in the Flashpoint comic, when it comes to restoring the timeline to what it once was, Thomas Wayne encourages Barry Allen to restore the timeline in spite of the fact knowing that if Barry Allen does this, Thomas will be the one who ultimately dies in the alley. But Thomas doesn't care. Why? Because Bruce Wayne gets to live on. His son gets to live on. And I think Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne will do exactly this, or at least his decision will be influenced by this. Damage will be done to Earth 89, and the Flash will be left with a choice on how to save the universes. Ben Affleck's Batman will make the decision for Barry, because at least in the universe of Keaton, Dick Grayson still gets to live. Now, honestly, I have no idea if I don't even know if Robin's even going to be in this movie. I haven't heard any reports about Robin being in here. I've heard some reports about casting of Robin being in Batgirl. But to me, if they do something like this, where ultimately it is a hero sacrifice for him, I think that would make Ben Affleck's character actually come full circle and really honor him. At the setup of BVS, at that mournful part of where Ben Affleck is at this point in his life, he's experienced so much loss, and he obviously is still very much reflective on what really changed him. And it's clear that a lot of that stems from the fact that Dick Grayson died. You have that really kind of popular scene where he is looking at the suit of Dick Grayson. So if you start him off on this a dark point, and then eventually he helps form the Justice League, creates heroes, and then his final day as being a hero is sacrificing himself so that way Robin gets to live. That just sounds like a beautiful arc to me. That sounds like something that would actually work, and a good way for him to say goodbye, and a way to actually put a stamp on the character that still honors who he was in the Snyderverse movies. Now, I know one thing people have been talking about recently is this cryptic post Ezra Miller put out. It's a screenshot of Ben Affleck's Batman talking about how he'd be playing him one last time. In it, Ezra underlined the words "one last time" and scribbled the words "haha" all over it in Joker-like font. Many took this as an indicator that this will not be the last time Ben will be playing him. Another way to interpret it would be that Ben can continue playing him if Discovery decides to move forward with the Zack Snyder Justice League sequels. Maybe the haha is also reflective of what we've been talking about in this video, though. The haha writing similar to how they were on Robin's suit in BVS. The moment in time for Ben Affleck's Batman that will serve as the driving force of his character's sacrifice in The Flash. I don't know, maybe I'm just saying things to support my argument. But that's just my opinion, and that's just my theory, so I don't know if maybe Ben Affleck does die at the beginning, or maybe he doesn't die and he just gets erased. I have no idea, but if something like this were to play out, I think this would be great, and I feel like there's some evidence that at least points to this. All right, guys, but what do you think about my theory? What's your theory on what might happen with Ben Affleck? Leave your thoughts down below. Subscribe, click the notification bell, hit that like button. I'll catch you soon.